Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 1 of the HBO limited series, The White Lotus. The White Lotus is created by Mike White, who also did a show called Enlightened on HBO a few years back. 2 seasons. It starred Laura Dern. Season 1 was around 2011. Season 2 was around 2013. And now Mike White returns to HBO with this new limited series. I believe it's supposed to be 6 episodes. Called The White Lotus. The White Lotus is the name of the hotel that these travelers are staying in. The episode title is Arrivals, obviously referring to these individuals arriving at this hotel. So that's generally the premise here in this first episode. Kind of not too much to pull away from this other than, I guess, like the style that the show is going to be going for. This first episode spends a lot of time introducing us to the characters. We're going to be in a situation where we're going to see how these characters interact with one another over the course of a week. And it's important that we understand who these people are and where they come from, so that undoubtedly what's going to turn into an incredibly eventful week, actually makes sense and plays out for us in a way that is consistent with these characters. So, the show starts out with, again, it's called Arrivals, with, I believe, 5 or 6 individuals arriving at this hotel called the White Lotus for a vacation in Hawaii. We find out at the very beginning of the episode, it's kind of like a flash forward, that one of the characters is in the airport going home by himself, and a couple starts asking him questions, and then, hey, how'd you enjoy your trip, that kind of stuff. He's like, I was on my honeymoon. And they're like, where'd you stay? I stayed at the White Lotus. And they're like, oh, we heard somebody died there. And he's like, yeah, they're loading the body on the plane now. And, they're like, hey, you said this was your honeymoon. Where's your wife? And he basically says, leave me the fuck alone, and walks off. And then it flashes back to a week earlier, and we see everyone arriving at the hotel. So presumably over the course of the 6 episodes, it will take place in the time span between when they arrive and when this guy is at the airport 1 week later. And we're going to see how whoever this is, we don't know who it is that dies. We don't know in what manner they die. Were they killed? Who knows? People are probably assuming that. And if they were killed, who did it? If they weren't killed, how did it happen? One thing I want to start by saying, though, before I actually get into the details of the show, I really hope this doesn't turn into a murder mystery. Because I said this with Mayor of Easttown, which racked up a couple of Emmy nominations today, that HBO is really running out of ideas with this whole a murder happens in the first episode, and now we're going to spend the whole rest of the season figuring out who did it. That shit is so played out at this point that if that's what this ends up being, where it's like, oh, this person gets murdered and we have to figure out who did it, if it ends up being like that, I'm probably going to be out on this show. I'm shocked at the lack of originality coming from HBO and their limited series right now. Like, from a channel that put out, like, I May Destroy You last year, Chernobyl, stuff like that, to be putting out whodunit after whodunit after whodunit after whodunit it's mind-blowing to me that they would think, hey, let's do another murder mystery. But I digress. This better not be a fucking murder mystery, put it that way. So that's kind of like my only my only real criticism here of this show so far, is like, it better not be another fucking murder mystery. Because they make it a point to say someone died. They didn't say someone was killed. So I think that could be a thing where people might naturally kind of like default to assuming someone was killed. Oh, and then, I forgot, also his wife's not there. So we also have to figure out, okay, why is his wife not there? And because I think the natural, I guess, the place that your mind would go is like, well, it must be the wife that's dead, which means it almost certainly is not. But anyway, this show takes its time kind of like introducing us to these characters in this first episode. We have the worst character on the show, this guy Shane, played by, what's his name, Jake something or other. I have it written down in my notes here. Jake Lacey. Shane, played by Jake Lacey. terrible, uber rich guy who's a complete fucking douche. He's dissatisfied with the hotel room he got, even though it's remarkable, because he feels like he should be in the honeymoon suite, which his mother booked and paid for, and it's some fancier room. His wife loves the room and wants him to stop making a scene, but he can't stop himself from making a scene because, hey, what does a rich white guy expect out of life? Whatever the fuck he wants. So that's how he behaves. His wife's played by Alexandra Daddario, who I only know from True Detective, but you guys probably know from other stuff. I don't know, but I know her from season 1 of True Detective. So they're one of the couples that's there. Another character there, Jennifer Coolidge. She plays, I forget her character's name in the show, but Jennifer Coolidge is there. Jennifer Coolidge is most well known as being Stifler's mom from American Pie. She's there by herself. Apparently her mother just passed, and I guess she's probably trying to get away from that sadness and try to find a way to relax and enjoy her time. So she's there. Then we have another couple played by Steve Zahn and Connie Britton. You probably, I couldn't even run off all the things those two have been in. They've been in a ton of stuff. You probably know Steve Zahn from any number of comedies. Connie Britton's been in like 8 million things. They're an older couple that's there, and they have a teenage daughter and a teenage son. The daughter is played by Sydney Sweeney, who I most recently saw in Euphoria, and I don't know the son from anything. And then she was also allowed to bring a friend who is also an actress that I'm not familiar with at the moment. But very strong cast, very interesting cast, very diverse cast. And when I say diverse cast, I don't necessarily mean like, a black person, white person. I mean like diverse as far as like the characters go. These are all very unique people, even though they're all super rich. They all have something different kind of going on that's kind of weird. This show had probably the longest and clearest view of a dick and balls I've ever seen outside of a porno. HBO has gotten incredibly comfortable with that. If you aren't sure, you can watch Euphoria to get confirmation of that. But yeah, I feel like most people would call this first episode slow. It's a little tedious, and they wouldn't be wrong. I saw that actually while I was looking up the cast names. There were a couple of reviews on IMDb of the first episode, and it was largely people going, well, this was boring and uneventful, which is true. It's not a very eventful episode. This first episode kind of relies on you being interested in these incredibly unlikable characters and seeing, wanting to see how this plays out, how this trip plays out. I'm willing to stick with it because I do find the characters to be interesting. I am curious how this is going to play out, and I feel like the dynamic between these different parties can make for some really interesting moments. So I'm going to continue to watch it, but I can definitely see where someone's coming from calling it boring or uneventful, because the first episode was pretty uneventful. There wasn't a lot going on, but when you have a situation where you're trying to tell a story that relies heavily on how we feel about these characters and how well we know them, and it's not as plot driven as something else, you kind of need that first episode to introduce your audience to all the main players, and who's who, what kind of personality they have, how that might be like oil and water between the multiple groups. So there was some work that needed to be done in that first episode that I'm very willing to give them a pass on for it not being the most eventful episode. But there's always things going on just kind of like just below the surface where you're watching and you're like, what does this mean? So what I mean by that is Jennifer Coolidge's character, for instance, is obsessed with getting this massage. I'm wondering, is she just obsessed with this massage because she's upset about her mother, or is there something else going on with her? She seems very frazzled and nervous and just kind of out of it for the entire episode. Very out of touch. And again, this could just be part of her grieving process, or there could be something more. Alexandra Daddario's character with Jake Lacey's character, he's the biggest douche on the show by far. You can tell she's probably wondering if she got into this marriage, if she should have even gotten into this marriage. Apparently they just met a few months ago and now they're married, and you kind of feel like she's probably having some regrets there. Steve Zahn and Connie Britton's situation is interesting. He's concerned about his own health. He's got an ongoing situation with the doctor. she's concerned with how her daughter and her son are interacting. Like the son gets put in like the daughter is bossing him around. The parents are allowing it. It's weird. He's trying to have these father-son moments with him because he's concerned about his well-being. So they're painting that dynamic. There's a lot going on that is raising questions of how is this going to play out, and then how is this going to feed into whatever it is that's ultimately ends up happening with whoever this is that dies. There's an interesting cast of supporting characters as well. The hotel manager, I don't know him from anything. His name's Armand, I believe, on the show, but I don't recognize him from anything. But I can already tell he's going to be an interesting character. There's an assistant, I think, what was her name, Lainey or Lonnie? She's pregnant at the start of the show. Interesting to see where she goes. So right now, I'm kind of sitting in a place where if somebody watches this and they go, I'm not interested in this, I would not fault them or even internally think that they are wrong. The first episode probably does leave a lot to be desired for most people because it's just building the groundwork. But with only 6 episodes to work with, there's not a lot of time to do that necessary laying of foundation. So, you know, if they gotta spend the whole first episode doing that, that's fine. It just relies on whether or not you think these super rich people at this resort where someone ends up dying, whether or not you think these characters are interesting enough, or whether or not you are interested enough in seeing who dies and how we get there. That's going to be the determining factor in whether or not this is a show you're going to want to stick with. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep watching it. I'm going to check out episode 2 with, again, only 6 episodes. I expect some sort of pretty strong indication of what direction we're going and some pretty strong forward movement of the plot. So we'll see. If episode 2, you know, plays out the way I'm expecting, I'll probably cover all 6 episodes. If episode 2 kind of comes off like, okay, now we're dragging our feet because we're already a third of the way through this limited series and it's not interesting or it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, I'll check out. But as of right now, those are my thoughts on episode 1. Give it a shot. See if you're interested in these characters. See if you're interested in where this story goes. And maybe we'll be along for a 6 episode ride or maybe just one more. We'll see. But regardless, I'll see you guys next week to discuss episode 2. Peace.